Welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. On the news this hour, Senate tasks Inspector General of Police to come up with modalities of community policing as a way of addressing the nation's security situation. Sacked Imo State Governor Honorable Emeka Ihedioha, that's former governor, accuses Imo State Governor Senator Hope Uzodimma of misleading. Supreme Court seeks for review of court judgment on the Imo governorship election. And on the heels of unabating power play in Edo State chapter of the All Progressives Congress, Edo State government embarked on demolition of structures said to be owned by members of opposing factions of the party. Welcome everyone to the program. Let's begin today with news of President Muhammadu Buhari, his arrival for the induction ceremony of the newly acquired 3 brand new combat helicopters. Well, under his administration, the Nigerian Air Force has procured and inducted 22 fighter jets, helicopter gunships, while 17 additional aircraft are being expected or related to the fight against insecurity in the country. Officers in uniform to reach 10. And after 4 hours of meeting behind closed doors, the Senate ended the session yesterday with the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Adamu. Now, after the session, Mr. Adamu told National Assembly correspondents that he briefed lawmakers on the modalities for community policing. The President of Senate, who presided over the executive session, said the lawmakers have resolved to support the police through legislative action. Last week, the Senate summoned Mr. Adamu to brief lawmakers on the state of insecurity in the country.
I came to the Senate today and briefed them on the concept of community policing. If you can remember, last year we sensitized the whole country on the need to adapt community policing in the country. And the concept is to give policing back to the community, let the community take the initiative in identifying the problems that are there that can lead to the commission of crime, and then we work in the community to solve the crime. We believe that everybody comes from the community, and the community, in the community, you know who and who is there. So taking policing back to the community will help in reducing crime to the barest minimum. So I've explained the concept of community policing to the Senate, which involves partnership with communities, and there are various communities. You can have traditional institutions as a community. You can have a National Union of Road Transport Workers as community. You can have the media as a community, and various forms of community that we need partnership. And when we talk about the partnership, we're talking of problem solving. We need to solve problems that evolve in the community.
Also in the fight against security, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, is asking armed forces to take the battle to the criminals. Well, he made the statement at a meeting of the Joint House Committees on Defense, Army, Navy and the Air Force with the service chiefs. The meeting is coming also 1 week after both chambers of the National Assembly dedicated a whole day to debate the issue of insecurity in the country, with lawmakers calling for resignation of service chiefs. According to the Speaker, security is top priority for the 9th House of Representatives and will be addressed frontally.
People are dying every day and dying callously in ways that you can only find in almost a country without security forces. But we know that you guys are doing a lot. This is our priority. It's the government's priority, and it should also be our priority in the House. It's major in our legislative agenda. and we must address it frontally, squarely, and however and whatever needs to be done. We must think outside the box. We must take the battle to these criminals, whatever they are. So this is actually another one of those meetings, engagements, which we say is going to be continuous. We said it the last time. It's going to be continuous to find out exactly, open up, find out exactly what is going on, what the issues are, what the problems are, and hopefully, get some commitments from you.
Well, staying with security, the coalition of Northern Group, made up of various socio-political organizations, they've unveiled a security outfit codenamed Operation Shege Kafasa, aimed at protecting lives and property of citizens in the region. The launching of the security outfit comes barely a month after Southwest governors launched their regional security outfit named Amotekun. At the unveiling of the new security outfit in Edo State, spokesman of the coalition group says the decision to set up the outfit is due to the increasing cases of banditry, kidnapping, terrorism that have remained a major security threat and underdevelopment to the region. He's calling on the 19 northern state governors to urgently join their counterparts in the southwest and southeast by adopting and ratifying the initiative. Well, with the National Assembly intervention on the lingering insecurity challenge in the country, coupled with the various regions coming up with their own regional security strategy, what's the way forward? Community, states, regional, or more effective national policing? Well, in dissecting this issue, a security expert, Mr. Kabiru Adamu, joins us right now on the program. We'd like to thank you for joining us on Lunchtime Politics. Now, I must ask this, and that is staying with all of the issues that have come forth, security issues in the country and the efforts by the Executive and National Assembly. How did we get here in the first place, seeking various alternatives to our security problem? And why have these alternatives become necessary? And necessary, I mean, at this point.
The simple explanation is that the federal, structures that we have for security have unfortunately not met our needs. People are dying, properties are being destroyed. Even the social contract between government and the people has been questioned. So I think this is why you are seeing various initiatives at the individual level, at the corporate level, at the communal level, and then, of course, at the state level. And I think we have a unique opportunity in our hands at the moment where virtually every segment of society is speaking security and trying to look for solutions. So I hope that, we go beyond some of the politicization that have permeated the issue of security in the past, and continue to interrogate the question until we find very good and practicable and implementable solutions. To that extent, I'm quite excited about the action by the Senate to as it were establish an ad hoc committee that would look at the security infrastructure, including all of these elements that I've mentioned: the regional, the state, the corporate, and the individual level. We must also admit that the National Security Strategy 2019 is projecting community policing as the way forward. Yesterday, we saw the Inspector General of Police coming to the Senate and explaining to the Senate the modalities for community policing. So it appears that this is what the Buhari administration is focusing on, community policing. So we continue to interrogate it, continue to ask questions around the modalities, and hopefully the National Security Advisor and the Inspector General of Police, as well as all the other arms of government, will give back to Nigerians that essential element of governance, which is the protection of security, of lives and property.
And, Mr. Damu, interesting, because these are some of the issues we've talked about lately. And, you also mentioned what indeed has been coming up now, the West, the South, the new group from the North talking about the new security outfit and, looking at everything holistically at solving the insecurity crisis. But can we solve the problems of insecurity with community policing? Because that will be on two levels: the police who will be involved in this, and then the people. Do the people trust the police as it stands now?
The simple answer is unfortunately no. And one of my greatest, for lack of a better word, disappointments is the fact that there have been remarkable improvement in the police. But because of this distrust, people are not even seeing it. Over the last few years, I'll be very specific, since the appointment of the current Inspector General of Police, he has attempted to introduce certain reforms. I mean, when we've seen how that has affected the police structure as a whole. Just yesterday, we saw the police, well, at this stage, it's still a claim, saying that they've killed 250, terrorists in Kaduna. This is something that would never have happened in the past. In Borno State, we saw the police going after terrorists, even when the military, as it were, abandoned that particular location. And not only that, recovering assets that have been taken over by the military. So to that extent, I think there have been remarkable improvement that unfortunately, as Nigerians, we've not really observed them. And this is because of the trust deficit that you've mentioned, and not only that, because of the myriad of issues. So to answer your question, I don't think, unfortunately, community policing is enough. There are so many things that need to be done. And I mentioned reformation and restructuring of the security architecture as well. That is one. Two, the root causes of all of these issues. One of them is the failure of the criminal justice system to punish offenders. Unfortunately, time will not allow us to go into that, but that's one. Two, climate change. Those are issues that need to be addressed. Poverty, illiteracy, those are all the root causes of the security challenges in the country. So unless and until we tackle those root causes, which are more economic and social to an extent, no matter what we do in terms of policing, which is just an aspect of the criminal justice system that I mentioned earlier on, unfortunately, we will not see an end to these issues.
All right, Mr. Kabir Adamu, we'd like to thank you for joining us on Lunchtime Politics.
Thank you.
And the former governor of Edo State, Mr. Emeka Hedoha, he believes that Governor Hope Uzodinma and the All Progressives Congress, APC, misled the Supreme Court into holding that over 200,000 votes were unlawfully excluded from the votes that were announced during the Imo governorship election. According to a motion on notice filed recently, the immediate past governor stated 5 grounds of nullity for the Apex Court to nullify the January 14, 2020 judgment and remove Senator Uzodinma. Well, the allegation of fraud as the 3rd ground in the motion as well. While addressing a news conference in Abuja, a former Attorney General of Imo State explained that the former governor will also file a motion to expedite the hearing on notice. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is also joined in the suit as a respondent.
It is because there's a room to file it that the lawyers decided to file the application. If there were no room for it, they would not file the application. Understandably, you have to have an appeal on an election matter heard within 60 days from the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. That's what the Constitution says. But we're not dealing with an appeal to the Supreme Court. The appeal to the Supreme Court has been heard and disposed of. This application is not an appeal to the Supreme Court. I don't want to go further than this. The arguments have been canvassed in the application. The Supreme Court will look at the arguments. The Supreme Court will make a decision one way or the other. They have also prepared to file an affidavit of urgency that may ensure that the application is heard expeditiously.
We'll talk more about that when we return after this break. Still to come as well, Edo State demolition coming on the heels of a deepening internal party squabble. We'll find out when we return. Please join us again. Welcome back, everyone, to the program. And now to some of your stories in brief. The Ogun State Governor, Dakwa Abiodun, has assured would-be investors in the state of adequate security to facilitate ease of doing business as well as guarantee security of life and property. He was speaking in Abeokuta, the state capital, while taking delivery of some security gadgets donated by a private sector aimed at improving the security architecture of the state. While calling for more private sector participation, the governor, however, said that various initiatives are being put in place by the administration to reduce unemployment among the youth population. Elsewhere in Bauchi State, Governor Bala Mohammed has charged appointed officials to work in synergy and stay committed to achieving set goals and targets for the development of the state. He was speaking during the swearing-in of a new chief of staff to the government house, Mr. Ladan Salihu, who was appointed following the resignation of the former chief of staff just last week. All others sworn in the cabinet are special advisors, social investment, Hajia Amina Katagum, and Commissioner of Information, Garba Dahiru. Well, let's now move over to the issue, and that is talking about what is before the Imo State, or rather before the Supreme Court, seeing as the former governor, Emeka Ihedioha, has come to ask that the court review that judgment. We have joining us from our Abuja studios a legal practitioner, Mr. Pelumi Olajengbesi. I'd like to thank you for joining us at this time and ask that the aggrieved party, they've brought their application pursuant to Section 6, subsection 6 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and Section 2, that is 22 rather, of the Supreme Court Act 2004. What does it say, and on what grounds is this application being made in the first place?
All right, thank you very much. It is a very simple issue. Any individual who believes that a particular decision was reached on the ground of fraud, the person can approach the court for review of the decision. But when you are approaching the court, you must be able to differentiate between review of the court's decision and changing of the court's decision. In the case of the Supreme Court's decision is final. And when the Supreme Court has pronounced on a particular matter, that is the end of the issue. When you're going to court to seek for review, as seen in Section 22 of the Supreme Court Act, or if you're relying on the other 6 Rule 18 of the Supreme Court Act, it means that you're going there to tell the Supreme Court that there are clerical errors or probably there are mistakes that the Supreme Court has made. However, that will not affect the decision of the court because the decision of the court is final. And I want to quickly say that talking about the case, the Imo State government case, you see, anything that has to do with election petition is a matter of in its own class and is established by Section 285 of our Constitution. The Section 285 of our Constitution invokes the jurisdictional powers of our court to address issues that has to do with election matters. And there are specified time limits which cannot be moved. So this matter is like a dead Lazarus that needs the hand of Jesus alone to wake up. But you cannot, by any process, go back to the Supreme Court to address that issue. And also, if you have gone through properly the decision of the Supreme Court on the Imo State governorship election, you will discover that our legal system in Nigeria is based on adversarial system, not inquisitorial. The Supreme Court cannot leave Abuja and go to Imo State to go and check what are the details of what transpired in the election. What the Supreme Court is interested in are all the processes that parties have filed before the court, and the Supreme Court will make decisions based on the processes.
So
I think
you're
though
saying,
the decision
if I
was
might come in
very
now,
painful, given.
If I might come in now, because we had a team of lawyers.
Yeah.
They looked into it, they found merit, and they brought this application. And they're asking for one relief. The Supreme Court set aside the judgment. You're saying there's no merit.
No, it is not possible for the Supreme Court to set aside a judgment that has been delivered by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can only make corrections as to clerical errors or mistakes. If you look at the provision of the essence of Section 22 of the Supreme Court Act, is not for the Supreme Court to change a decision. And in plethora of decisions, in 2018, in a matter involving LPDC and a very senior lawyer, I don't want to mention his name, he approached the Supreme Court for the review of a particular decision. And the Supreme Court says that though the Supreme Court can depart from that decision in subsequent matters, however, the Supreme Court cannot wake up a matter that is dead already. So it's as, for example, when when you have a particular issue before a doctor, a particular virus, at that particular time when there's no medicine for it, there's nothing the doctor can do. But when you now discover new medicine, the doctor will not wake up the person that is dead already. This matter has been settled by the Supreme Court. However, I think if the ousted governor of Imo State feels that there are some mistakes or some errors in the calculation in what have you, he can actually approach the court, the Supreme Court, as he has done now. And when he approaches the court, the Supreme Court can make those corrections. However, the Supreme Court cannot alter its decision because the decision is final.
All right, we'd like to appreciate your time because some of the things you've said brings to question perhaps why indeed this application is being made. But we'd like to appreciate your time, Mr. Pelumi Olajengbese, legal practitioner, for your thoughts on this issue. Well, moving on to other stories now, the Edo State government, they've denied any wrongdoing on the demolition of a property along Ugbo axis of Benin City, the state capital, belonging to a member of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Mr. Tony Kabaka. The Special Advisor, Media and Communication Strategy to Governor Gordon Obaseki, Mr. Osage, insists that the exercise was not an isolated one, adding that government was already in the process of bringing down all illegal structures in the state. He said that the demolition exercise followed due process and it is not politically motivated.
It's just one of the many removal of illegal properties that are either sitting on right of way of, or water flood parts or violating one building code or the other in the state. This process has been ongoing since about a year and a half ago, and it's going to be an ongoing process even after now. So the said building which we just spoke about, it's not just one, standing on its own. It's just one out of many other corrections that have been carried out by the Ministry of Fiscal Planning of the Edo State government. Yeah, well, in Nigeria, once anybody starts to try to put things the way they should be, people always cry about political undertone, but that one is not the case in this matter at all. Yes, you spoke about the delay. Yes, the delay was necessary because the owner of this property had approached the courts, seeking redress. And as a government, we do not take the laws into our hands. We follow the process to ensure that all the processes initiated by this individual were duly taken care of legally before the demolition was carried out.
And the 9th National Assembly is saying that it will fix some of the grey areas in the 1999 Constitution. The President of Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has set up a Constitution Review Committee. The committee is headed by the Deputy Senate President, Senator Ovie Omoagege. We hear there are 56 lawmakers in the committee. The names were also announced by the President of Senate, Ahmed Lawan. We'll continue to bring you an update on that story and for more stories indeed on our website, channelstv.com. That's how we wrap things up this afternoon. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.